Texas gets tricked in Ames on Halloween, volleyball suffers a setback, and we've got you covered on Soccer Senior Night up next on College Press Box. Welcome to your home for Longhorn Sports on the 40 Acres. It's College Press Box. I'm your host, Reese Miller. Glad to have you with us. Lots of sports to get into today. Experts joining us throughout the show. But first, we begin with football, and we head to Ames, Iowa. Texas, a little setback. They were late on their flight getting there. We have the luxury of being on time, showing you the highlights and how Texas fell to 2-5. Let's play those and show you how Texas fell to the Iowa State Cyclones. We'll go ahead and pick it up about midway through the first quarter. Joel Lanning, the new QB, new offensive coordinator, but it's Mike Warren plunging through the middle. Touchdown Iowa State. Texas down 7-0. First play in Iowa State territory here, 3rd and 5. Draw hurt, rolling, throw it away. No, don't do that. Back to the middle, intercepted Iowa State, and they have possession. They did not score. They converted on a field goal, so they're up 10-0 now. Texas, a screen pass left to Jay Johnson. Longhorns finally get something rolling offensively, but they're forced to punt. Here's the boom from Michael Dixon. Such a leg. The Aussie outkicks his coverage, and a little return set up here for Iowa State. Moving left, he can juke out everybody except Mr. Michael Dixon, the MVP, or my award for MVP for Texas on the night. Here's Lanning. First start of his career at Iowa State, and that's a dime in the left corner to essentially put it out of reach. 17-0 at this point. Why not pour it out? Plunging up the middle again. Iowa State scores. It's 24-0. Texas trying to make one final, at least tell Mom they scored at the end. Pass to Andrew Beck over the middle. That's caught for a good gain. Tyrone swoops in now at quarterback. Gerard Hurd on the bench. Last play of the game. Can we get points? No. They drop it in the left corner of the end zone. Texas falls to Iowa State 24-0, and they fall to 2-5 on the season. As I welcome Mark Skol, fresh off a birthday weekend, a happy Halloween weekend. Mark, first off, did you survive the storms?
Well, it was a pretty crazy drive back to Houston this weekend, but I was able to get there safe and sound.
Texas was not able to survive the storm. That was the Iowa State Cyclones sweeping them up, and they are now 2-5 on the season. Mark, we're going to take a look at a couple different plays, and we're going to start with Gerard Hurd's interception on 3rd and 5, the first play in Iowa State territory. As we take a look at it right here, off to my right here, Gerard Hurd, 3rd and 5, and this is what we want to look at, is this block right here over by Kent Perkins, completely missing the block. Gerard Hurd is forced to rush away from the receivers running the opposite direction, and here again, no receivers coming back this way to Gerard Hurd. He ends up throwing it back over the middle instead of throwing it out of bounds, and Texas is forced really to throw an interception mark there. I want to take a look at this one more time, and what do you see here from the Texas offensive line and really the Texas receivers as we look at it over here?
Well, you can see from the play, Patrick Vahe, the right guard, he's doing a really good job. True freshman, does a good job blocking his defensive lineman. But then Kendrick Perkins, like you said, he missed his block and forces Gerard Hurd to scramble, and that forces Gerard Hurd to make a bad pass. So, I mean, Gerard Hurd, he couldn't really do much. He had nothing to do there on that play. None of his receivers came back over there. He just threw up a prayer, and unfortunately, it was answered by the Iowa State Cyclones.
I mean, this seems to be an ongoing issue with Gerard Hurd not being able to throw the ball away, or sometimes running out of bounds in critical plays against Oklahoma State earlier in the season. I mean, it seems like, why hasn't Gerard Hurd been able to figure this out and get rid of the football?
Well, a lot of it falls on the offensive line. I mean, they're starting 2 true freshmen on the offensive line, Connor Williams at left tackle, Patrick Vahe at right guard. And Cedric Flowers and Taylor Doyle are the only solid offensive linemen on this team. Kent Perkins, he's coming back from an injury, so he's not really as sharp as he used to be. And it's just hard when you have a bunch of Iowa State defenders in your face to make a good play. And I mean, Gerard Hurd he doesn't have the best arm either, so it's kind of hard for him to get anything going in that department. But I mean, it's not much you can do with not a great offensive line.
Cal seems like a distant memory, certainly at this point. We're going to take a look at a second play here to kind of show you the limits of this Texas offense. This is going to be a screen play that's intended for DJ Johnson on the right. And what do you see here, and what does this say about the limits of the Texas offense?
Well, you can't open the offense that much because Gerard Hurd and Tyrone Supes, they never have any time to throw the football, so you have to get the screen pass going just to try to get something going. And when you do a screen pass over and over again, it's going to be predictable for this Iowa State defense, and you're not going to get anything out of it. And that's just what happened over and over again for Texas on offense. DJ, he tries to get something going, and he can't just because it's just very predictable for this Iowa State defense to see the screen pass coming.
Yeah, as we look at it one more time here, Gerard Hurd, this play is actually set up pretty okay, but you see another missed block here on the right side attempting to seal that. If he's able to get out in front of that play, maybe it works. But again, it shows the inexperience of this offensive line, and maybe Texas' weakest position continue on and on again to really fail them, like you said. I mean, where does Texas go here offensively? It seemed like they had some running game going a little bit with the 18-wheeler package with Gerard Hurd. It seems like that kind of all went away with counters and with QB power. So where does this offense go from here?
Well, what I liked back at the Kansas State game, they always had these fake reverses to DJ, and I felt like that opened in a game in the rain. You have to go with the run, and I felt like that opened up the game a lot. And when you're doing a screen pass over and over again, it's predictable, like I said earlier. But with this reverse play, you can fake reverse, you can reverse it, and it just leaves a lot of options open. I feel like that would trick the other opposing defenses more than these bubble screen passes off to the side.
It seems like maybe the only way Texas can get the ball into the hands of playmakers is a play like that. We're going to take a look at one final play here. This is going to be the Joel Lanning touchdown pass that essentially put it away. And we're going to go ahead and roll it. And Lanning here, really, Texas brings 5 blitzers here, is able to get no pressure, perfect pocket. And you see Jason Hall right there, the safety, an experienced sophomore now, come up there. And again, this shows the inexperience. As you see Hall in the left corner of your picture come up. He gets beat over the top. Holton Hill left in one-on-one coverage. And Texas burned by that play again. But what does it say about the Texas defense? Not able to get pressure in the secondary, being victimized late in the game in a crucial situation.
Well, Texas is very inexperienced on defense. You saw Devontae Davis and Holton Hill getting picked on by Lanning all game on Saturday. And it's not really, I mean, that's just what's going to happen when they're true freshmen starting at cornerback in college football. So it's what you got to expect. But then Jason Hall, he's only a sophomore, but he's a veteran now, and he's got to be able to make those plays, and he's got to be able to see that from the beginning, especially since there's 2 freshmen starting on cornerback on the outside. They got to have help. They still are learning the reins a little bit, and Hall's got to be able to make that play. He ended up with 7 tackles on the day, but that doesn't just say like for all those blown coverages that he had in that game.
Sure, a lot of defensive coordinators saying you don't want your safeties to lead your team in tackles. Not a good sign, Mark. Before I let you go here, we need a score prediction for the home game this Saturday at 7 p.m. against the Kansas Jayhawks. Texas opened as 29-point favorites.
29-point favorites. I don't even know if they'll score 29 points against Kansas, but you got to feel optimistic for Texas just because it is Kansas. I can't even remember the last time Kansas even won a Big 12 matchup, so I'm going to go Texas. I'm going to say it's a close one because Kansas has shown some positivity this season. So I'm going to go 24-17 Texas.
Okay, Kansas 0-8 so far. Close score there. Did definitely not cover the spread, guys. Mark, thanks so much for your time. Coming up, we take you to Mike Myers and analyze the Texas soccer team after their senior night. Thanks for keeping the antenna tuned to TSTV and to College Press Box. Friday, the Longhorns soccer team concluded its season against Montana. Reporter Matt Adams dives in to senior night. As we watch Texas on senior night here, Matt Adams was there reporting, but we'll show you the highlights first. Texas trying to get it going, trying to beat Montana on their final home scheduled game so far. There's the first goal of the night. Texas goes up 1-0 at the 38-minute mark. Senior Kelsey Schmidt scoring the first goal. Here's some great defense by that Texas goalkeeper, Abby Smith. She's first team All Big 12, by the way. She's pretty good. There's a corner kick coming for Texas, trying to get it in. Well, nice work posting up out in front of the goal, across with a nice defensive series from Montana. Staying alive, game still 1-0. Far kick down the right side now. Abby Smith, who else? There's a brick wall over there. Now Texas getting really aggressive, trying to take the 2-0 lead. On the far right side, this goal rolling through, and a nice pickup there. Alexa Adams scores from Michaela Flores cross pass. There's a cross attempt, but who else? Abby Smith and the Texas defense there. That's one example of a corner kick. Now here is how a corner kick should be executed. Texas will show you right here. This is Brinkley Field scoring on the corner kick. That, my friends, is execution to perfection. Texas wins 3-0 on senior night. Abby Smith, one of the many seniors. As we will go ahead and take you back now very quickly out back to Mike A. Myers Field, where Matt Adams will now report from senior night.
In all the rain Austin received on Friday, Texas soccer went out and got an emotional win on senior night, and goalie Abby Smith got her record 30th career game with a shutout.
You know, the entire team wanted that record for Abby Smith, and I'm grateful that she achieved that, and now we can move on. But there's no other more deserving goalkeeper in the history of this program, and I know I certainly, Abby and I have become very close, and I just am so happy for her that I can say that Abby Smith holds that record.
It's really emotional just because this has been our home. This is like where we train every day. We're here in and out, and we came here for a reason, and it's a great honor, and it's just like it's something that no one else can experience if you're not here.
Now that the regular season is completed for Texas, the Longhorns must prepare for the Big 12 tournament coming up next week.
I mean, we just have to look back at our Big 12 season and look at how we played against our opponents and the ones that we tied or lost, see what we can improve on, and then the ones that we won, just stick to what we did best and then just take it to them.
However, as much as they want to celebrate, they must prepare for the Big 12 tournament for coming up on November 4th, 6th, and the 8th. The Longhorns struggled some in conference play against teams like West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Baylor, so we will see if they can rebound from those losses and potentially win the tournament. From Myers Stadium, I'm Matthew Adams, College Press Box.
Joining us now in studio, our soccer expert, Katerina Biancardi. Katerina, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Reese. I'm glad to be here.
Katerina, when you look back after senior night, Texas obviously won that game. What kind of impact is it going to have this senior class moving on, and what's their sort of legacy that they leave behind?
Absolutely. These 9 graduating seniors, Reese, have been so impactful to this Texas team, especially this season. Goalkeeper Abby Smith, she is one solid rock, and with her communication to the defense and her fearless aggression against her opponents has led her to a career shutout record at UT. Her performance is going to be vital in postseason play for the Horns to be able to survive and make it. Additionally, senior midfield Lindsey Meyer has not only started, but she's played in all possible matches for the Horns in her four-year career. But Meyer also leads this current roster with 16 career goals and 41 points. Her attack in the air, aggressive play, and consistency has made her an impact player this season. Overall, this legacy of this Texas team is one of hard work and will, and it's going to be a senior class that's Coach Angela Kelly is going to be hard to replace.
Certainly, especially Abby Smith, the Big 12 first-team goalkeeper. Katerina, how do they move forward? You've got the Big 12 championships. They'll play Kansas Sticks next week. Then they move towards the NCAA championships. Just how far does this Texas team have the ability to go, looking forward to postseason play?
Well, realistically, Reese, for Big 12 play, Texas is going to most likely get to the semifinal if they show up first and perform against Kansas. After that, against Baylor, Baylor was the most recent conference loss against Texas. In the game against Baylor, Texas could not score. They were not able to perform. But this is where Texas is going to have to show up, use players like Lindsey Meyer to win the ball in the midfield. She's going to have to provide accurate service to freshman Michaela Flores, who's been proven dangerous on the top. But overall, for Texas to make it to the semifinal match, they're going to have to show up and beat Kansas. Now moving on to the NCAA tournament, this Texas team is different than last year's Texas team. What makes it different is that they are more experienced. They've been able to build together. That is unique versus last year. Last year they lost to top-ranked Notre Dame, a powerhouse in NCAA soccer, but this Texas team is different. They're more experienced and they're going to show up ready to play. I'm excited to see what they will do, and I think realistically they'll make it to the second round, but I would not be surprised if they make it to the third.
Certainly an interesting season, maybe their biggest victory so far, beating UCLA earlier in the year, and certainly progress looking forward, even though loss of an excellent senior class. Katerina, thank you for joining us. Up next, we dive into volleyball with our volleyball expert, Matt Adams. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for sticking with us on College Press Box. Through the Halloween weekend candy-driven hangover this past week, Texas volleyball hit the road for a pair of games against Big 12 Texas rivals. Wednesday against TCU, Texas suffered its first conference loss of the season, getting swept by the Horned Frogs in front of a sold-out crowd in Fort Worth. Despite the loss, Amy Neal notched her 11th straight game with double-digit kills, and senior Molly McCage, with 417 career blocks, is now the all-time leader in Texas history with 417 blocks. Friday, the Longhorns rebounded against Texas Tech, winning consecutive sets 25-19, 25-18, and 25-19 again. Neal again led the Longhorns in kills for her 15th time this season. Joining us now in studio is volleyball analyst Matthew Adams. Sitting right here, Matthew, how you doing?
Doing good, Reese. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, Matt. As we look on the first Big 12 loss, maybe expose Texas a little bit. They only have 2 losses this season, and both were to pretty solid teams, at least the first one. So obviously they're not desolate and lost here, but does this sort of expose Texas and maybe show them they have a ways to go here?
I think it exposed them a little bit because when you look at the game, Texas was pretty strong for the most part in that first set against TCU. They slipped in the second set there when they fell 20-9. That was too much of a gap to try to make up. And then the third set, it was back and forth, but at that point, you could tell that it really didn't seem like Texas was in it. Yes, Texas still had 39 kills. Obviously, Amy Neal did what she always is doing, Chiako Obagu. But when you have 20 errors to TCU's 12, that's not going to cut it at the end of the day.
And when you look at the tournament, Jared Elliott has sort of established the precedent that this is win a national championship or bust. They won it in 2013. The last 2 years, they finished in the Final Four last season, really getting upset by BYU. When you look at this Texas team, obviously they're young. They've had some injury issues throughout and certainly lost 2 big contributors last year with Haley Eckerman and Kat Bell. But does this Texas team have a chance to win it all, and where do they stack up, do you think, in the NCAA?
This Texas team still seems like they are going to be probably a Final Four contender. When you look at them going the rest of the schedule, unfortunately, they will have a little bit of a tougher test because with this loss to TCU, that ties them with Kansas right now. Yes, Kansas, who is ranked number 8, and surprisingly doing very well. They've recruited a lot of young Texas talent, and they're showing what they can do with it. So Texas has them coming up on November the 11th, so that'll be an interesting matchup in Lawrence to see. Whoever wins that will probably take the Big 12. At that point, once you get into tournament play, Texas will probably take the Big 12 tournament just because this is still the most experienced team in this in the Big 12. And then going forward, you know, you just got to hope that they don't get tripped up by a team like BYU again or something like that. When you look at, obviously there's Penn State, USC, there's still good teams there that are probably even better than Texas. But you have to look at number 10 there, and even Washington sitting at 19-2, I believe it is. They're going to be a team to have to watch out for, and they may trip some people up.
Certainly it'll depend on what section of the bracket they fall into, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. Great insight.
Thank you, Reese.
All right, coming up, we roll through the Colorado that have set a few mulligans in Sin City and tell you what's happening this week in Longhorn sports. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to the 40 Acres Studios and to College Press Box. This week, The Texas Longhorns men cross country team took home third in the Big 12 championships, while the women's team claimed sixth in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Brady Turnbull and Jacob Pickle finished in the top 15 for the men. All 5 runners, meanwhile, finished in the top 25. For the women, Sandy Raines finished in 23rd place as the top Texas finisher. Oklahoma claimed the men and women's championship, and it was their men's 8th straight Big 12 championship. As we move, the Longhorns women's golf team finished 7th at the Las Vegas Collegiate Showdown at Boulder Creek Golf Club in Sin City. Texas shot 11 under par during the 3rd round to secure 25 under par for the tournament. Sophomore Sophia Schubert led the Longhorns with 13 under 203. Texas will participate in the UCF Challenge in Florida on November 7th. Meanwhile, the rowing at the head of the Colorado was canceled, so we will tell you what is going on in this week in Longhorn Sports. Wednesday, you've got soccer at Kansas, 8 p.m. That's on the Big 12 Digital Network. Thursday, you've got some softball, and you've got a home volleyball game against West Virginia on LHN. Friday, you've got men's basketball, Shaka's home opener, and an exhibition against Tarleton State. Then you've got some softball against Texas State. Friday through Saturday, you've got a little women's tennis tournament there at the Kitty Harrison Invitational. So, and rounding out, it will be men's golf at Western Refining All-American. You also have football against Kansas, a real barn burner there, 7 p.m. on the Longhorn Network. That's your week in Longhorn Sports. Before we go, this week Justin Tucker had maybe the best celebration in all of football, as we will tell you and show you exactly how the Baltimore Ravens were able to beat the San Diego Chargers. Justin Tucker, a game-winning field goal as time expired, and this dance is how he chose to celebrate. Justin Tucker looking like he just beat the Aggies back in 2011. I'm not sure what that dance was or is, or if I could repeat it, but I think it's better off that I do not. But Justin Tucker, certainly the dance of the week in our This Week in Longhorn Sports before we go. So that's all the time we have this week on College Press Box. Remember to catch us up every Monday night at 9:30 and follow us on Twitter for the latest Texas sports news and updates. That's at College Press Box for the best sports debates on the 40. Watch College Crossfire with me Wednesday nights at 9. We're live there on Twitter at College X-Fire. Don't forget at TSTV Game Day as well for updates. All your shows are on YouTube. Big thanks to Katerina Biancardi, Matt Adams, and Mark Skol for joining us in studio. Big thanks to everybody in studio, Master Control, and a special thanks to you for spending your night with us. Until next week, I'm Reese Miller. Have an outstanding night.